Hey, it's Jordan, still here in Flint, Michigan. We're at Christina's house. We've interviewed Christina many times. She and so many people here were made ill from this toxic water. And many years ago, 2017, the governor's top advisor showed up at her house. And we'll get into that to remind people. But you, like a lot of people, have had a whole host of health problems, but you're starting to feel better, which you'll share why in a minute. But first, just remind people you and your ex were living here. When did you find out that the water was bad, and how long had you been drinking and showering in it before you stopped?
So when me and my ex found out in August of 2015, he came home from the Flint truck and bus power, or the not the Flint truck and bus plant that the engine parts were corroding at, and a supervisor came up to him and they were talking because he was a millwright, and he was just kind of chatting it up at lunch, and he was saying how Duke was very sick, and Duke is our 80-pound Aussie, and he lost a lot of weight, and you could feel his bones, but it was drastic. It was like in a month, and so no matter how many eggs or meat or yogurt or whatever we could give him, it did not put any weight on him. So we took him to the vet, and the vet, between the conversation he had at the Flint truck and bus with the supervisor saying what was wrong with his dog, he said, test the dog for lead. And then he said, your wife's pregnant too, right? Don't be having her shower in the water. And so I was pregnant when we found out, and with Declan. And so at first I think we took like a quick shower, but then I switched to bottled water bathing like the second I got my hands on the bottled water. And Duke went to the veterinarian and got tested for lead, and the vet had said she had not tested a dog for lead since the 70s. So, and he had a 409, and so he was beyond toxic. But
409 parts per billion of lead?
not parts per billion, it was
Oh.
parts per million.
Right.
So, but a 50 or higher for dogs is toxic, and he was beyond toxic. So he shouldn't even be here either, kind of like myself and my son, how much poison we all ingested, because we were the ones at home. Like, my ex-husband went to work, and the kids went to school, and Lily was here too. She was here most of the time. But for some reason, she must have been drinking a lot of milk and juice at the time because she was a toddler, and so her number wasn't as high. But Declan, his number was so high after we got him the proper testing, because he absorbed so much from me, not only through the pregnancy but through breastfeeding.
Right. Yeah, I can only imagine. My wife's breastfeeding right now, so how much they're getting from you if you were drinking it at that time. That must have been really mentally traumatic, because you think you're doing a good thing with the breastfeeding, but
It was, but she said better for the doctor that I was talking to, said better for him to get a little bit more of what he already has than to get fluoride.
right.
Because the fluoride mixed with aluminum and other metals can coagulate and cause SIDS, instant SIDS, and also in myself and my ex-husband, he was very bad and shaking and sweating, lost his job.
Let's get to that, because there's new viewers watching too who don't know the story. But
Yeah.
your ex, this was 2017. He was having seizures. I remember you or him told me that he would just forget when he's driving how to get home, even if he's just a few blocks away. So things were bad, and he was at a town hall and kind of popped off and was screaming at, understandably so. I mean, they weren't doing anything for anyone, really.
Right.
So he got escorted out. The media kind of covered it. And in my experience, under then Governor Snyder, they were really focused on keeping the image that everything was okay and everything's getting better. So any resident that was too loud or getting media attention, they wanted to neutralize. So after that January meeting, I guess it was arranged that the governor's top advisor would come here. So Richard Baird, who would later go on to be charged with several criminal charges, but he came in, I think this was end of February, early March 2017, and offered to pay for Adam's very expensive medical treatment.
Might have been 20. I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it was 2017.
You're probably right.
And he promised after Adam's treatment he would pay for you and the kids, and he framed it basically as this will be a pilot program.
And he'll be the lead poster child, and so he could save. He was trying to say it like because he could see that Adam had like kind of a savior complex, so he fed off that, and it was mainly them two talking the most. I would chime in. I was always kind of like Adam's bodyguard with all the government, because they set up that meeting, but then they also set up the meeting at MDEQ too. Because why did they want to prove to us that they didn't tamper with the testing?
The environmental department, yeah.
Yeah, so Scott Hippica arranged that, and that was so Black Ops Marine. I don't know if he is that, but I forgot you looked him up.
Yeah, so when the governor's top advisor came here for this meeting, he showed up with a former Black Ops Marine who identified himself as that.
That would do anything, pick up his poop, anything for him. That felt very threatened by him.
And a state trooper too was here with him.
Yeah, but she was the one that set up the meeting.
Okay.
And then the head of DHS, Cheryl Thompson. And so, yeah, that meeting happened. My in-laws were there too. We recorded the meeting. We told them we were recording it. Because we didn't have good memory and we wanted to be able to remember everything they were saying. And so for some reason they wanted us to go to the MDEQ too, and they wanted to prove to us that they didn't contaminate the water. Well, I just want to let you all know that there is a machine that Flint paid for with Flint's money, part of Flint's $100,000 machine that tests for everything on the periodic table and more. And they showed us these two bottles. They said, this one's for Fenton, this one's for Flint. This one will get tested for this all this stuff. And this one gets tested for lead and copper. And I'm like, okay, so why is this one only get tested for lead and copper? Is it more money to test the one for more stuff? And they said, no, it is absolutely not any more money to test it for everything. But that's their rule for your city.
So basically you can't find what you're not looking for.
Right.
And
so
they didn't want to look for these other things that might be in the water.
And Scott Smith was with us during that meeting, and he did his testing, and I see that he's down in Ohio. I'm glad that he's down there because he can find what they're not telling you guys. Also, they're not going to tell you what's in your blood. They're going to mess with the tests. They're going to make sure that you think you're okay and that you're going to die from some other thing, and you can't fall for it. You got to trust your gut. Did you want to?
Yeah, I wanted to just finish on why it's so important is because the governor's top advisor, it wasn't just you guys, that he was kind of presenting it almost like, oh, we're trying to help residents. The state is going to pay for your treatment, but there were strings attached.
Yeah, we couldn't tell them that they were paying for it, but we could talk about the treatment. We just couldn't tell anybody that the state was paying for it.
Right.
And, I mean, of course, we told close people, but we couldn't say it out. So I was scared to say anything until after my ex was done with the treatment, because then I didn't want my ex to be like, well, because you said something, I'm not getting my treatment, and then try to, I don't know, but... So after he was done getting treatment, that's when I was like, I don't care anymore. I want this out in the open because everybody deserves to be saved, not just him, you know. Right. And I was 99 pounds at the time and very, very sick, and I needed treatment. And They said if it worked for him, they would do the entire city. Well, he is driving around just fine now. So it worked for him, and then they left us all to die. And so I don't understand how Richard Baird got no charges at all.
Well, he did get charges. The problem is they were thrown out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But yeah, I don't understand how he got off scot-free. I wish I could have went there. I would have literally went there and testified if they would have called me. I kept calling the Attorney General's office too, volunteering to testify. But of course, they didn't want me there. You know, after she got in, they kicked out everything. I mean, we had hope. And then Nestle took it all away.
Well, he also lied many times, but the governor's top advisor, not only was he trying to pay you off, basically, and he went around offering these state-funded treatments to other people with the strings attached, don't say anything, but he lied about it. I have audio of him meeting with a Flint resident where he says he was paying for the treatment out of his own pocket when it was really the state paying for it.
Yeah,
So,
Cheryl Thompson is the one that paid for we contacted Cheryl Thompson every time we needed to make a payment.
she was with the health department, so.
Right.
So let's move forward to the treatment. It's called chelation therapy. I'm certainly not a doctor, or people need to make their own decisions, but the point of it is to extract lead and other heavy metals out of your body, and with lead, it gets so deep into your bones that it doesn't even show up. A lot of the lead won't show up in blood tests. So Adam started the chelation. You later were able to get it thanks to your current husband. And just talk about what it did for Adam and for you.
So Adam was, like I said, shaking and sweating on the couch and wasn't even coming upstairs to bed anymore for over a year. And before we got divorced, he was driving better already and communicating better with others. And now I think he looks a lot better, but I don't live with him. I'm not sure exactly. I can't speak really on him as much as I'd like to, but he is better.
Well, it's definitely better than having seizures and forgetting how to drive, like how to get back to your house when you're driving. And
yeah, I mean, you're the reporter, so you got the words, but I mean, I'm kind of stunned. Like, I still am in shock that they dropped all the charges. I'm like literally in shock that they're not going to do anything about this. So if I seem like I'm at a loss, that's what it is I'm in shock. Like, well, how can you just? This is America. Like, what?
I was just interviewing the former mayor, and I interviewed somebody yesterday, and basically the same thing. They believe that the current attorney general, it was almost like intentional incompetence.
Yep.
And they intentionally got rid of the previous investigators who, not that they were perfect, but the first team of investigators, they had charged 15 people, state and city officials. They had gotten the two top officials from the health department, Nick Lyon and Eden Wells. A judge had ruled they had to face a jury after a year pretrial. They were close to filing major financial charges. And then this attorney general came in and was just like, oh, it's taking too long, and fired them all, dropped all the charges, recharged people, but clearly did it the wrong way because the Supreme Court of Michigan tossed them out saying they filed the charges wrong. And it's just crazy that after almost a decade, not even like a low lackey, usually they find somebody to throw in prison just to say they're doing something.
Right.
But here, a whole city was poisoned. I think a lot more people have died than they're saying.
Yeah.
And no one is being held accountable.
Well, at the 5-year anniversary, I knew that something was wrong with Nestle's team because they actually yelled at me for crying. They yelled at me for crying in the audience, as they were all talking down to us from their stage.
This is when they came to Flint to explain
what was going on with what they were going to do next and stuff. And that was the only I think they gave other explanations, but after that I couldn't do it again.
Why did they yell at you for?
I don't know. She said that this one of them got really irritated with me, and it's probably on a video somewhere, but one of them got really irritated with me and said, "Why are you crying? You're not the only one here. This isn't only about you." And then the whole room erupted, and they were like, "Why are you picking on her? She's a mother of 5 that got really sick from this stuff, and that's why she's crying." I was thinking about Declan when I was crying.
Yeah.
Because my son was born into this stuff, and he has never known a world without it.
And he was born with lead in his blood.
Yes, and then they lied about it. And then the doctors laughed about it. When I gave birth, it was the worst birth I had because they laughed about it. They just covered up the fact that his butt looked kind of translucent, and we were kind of scared about his skin being thin on his butt, and so we just kind of didn't look at it ourselves because the doctors didn't say anything. So I figured if I just feed him enough, it'll grow in, and it did. But they're just traumatizing people constantly. I mean, the trauma should just give you a heart attack. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people haven't, between the poisoning and the trauma, that's what caused it just to all fall apart. Stress will cause you to die quicker.
And for you, obviously, at the time that the governor's, I call him the governor's henchman, came here, at that point you weren't as sick as your ex, but as time went on, could you talk about your health problems from the water and what made you want to do the chelation?
My health problems started. They were in 2015 actually, but I got pregnant, so I couldn't get any help for it. And after I had Declan, I breastfed him for 18 months per another doctor's recommendation over the baby formula that had fluoride in it because of SIDS, and fluoride in the metals could cause SIDS. Well, after I was done breastfeeding, and I got through the divorce, it was like my body, the adrenaline from the divorce was just keeping me going. And then right after the divorce, it hit me like a brick wall. Like, I didn't realize how much weight I had lost. I didn't realize a lot of things. And then my teeth started crumbling up, and the same thing that happened to Adam happened to me, but it was like the pregnancy postponed it. Declan saved, I think every day he saved my life. Declan saved my life, I saved his life because we shared the burden. And I think another reason why I didn't die like right away after all that started happening, because I was bad. I mean, I couldn't drive sometimes. And I still had to take care of 3 kids, and
to be clear, you were
by myself.
During the water switch, before you knew about the water being toxic, you drank a lot of water from the tap. And
yeah, I drank coffee and water, and we made the juice with the cup, and then you add more water to. Mm-hmm. And so I drank a lot of water, and I drank a lot of just plain water, and I also cooked a lot. I home cooked all the meals, so we were boiling everything in water, and makes it even worse. If you boil chemicals, it intensifies them. So
actually, with lead, when you do these boil water alerts, you're actually concentrating the lead more.
Yeah, and an area. Yeah, and so all that finally was like, okay, it's on you now. And I thought I wasn't going to get that sick, and it just happened. And
so can you talk about the symptoms? We're talking about, obviously, memory problems, but physically, I remember you telling me you had like crippling fatigue.
I had the fatigue, pain from my head to my toes, like all day long, 24/7 pain, never stopped. And then the shaking, I mean, just because I looked like that, I had to take on mental anguish because people would think I was a drug addict. They were like, I got treated differently by pharmacists, by people that didn't know me. they would just automatically look at me and see a little color in my hair, and that I wore pajamas a lot because any jeans hurt my skin. My skin hurt. My skin burned. My feet burn still to this day, but that is almost done. It's like once a month now instead of every day. So I just do an ionic foot bath and my feet are good. But then I also had to sleep with my legs up, and I sleep sitting up now. I haven't slept on my side for over 3 years because I was worried if I slept all the way down that I would have a brain aneurysm when I slept. I really, really was worried about that. I would not wake up. So I slept sitting up. And it felt like it worked. It felt like when I was getting the treatment, things were going vertically down instead of laying down and then everything pooling in my head. And so...
and the chelation treatment, they give... How does it work? They inject something into you, and it's supposed to extract the lead out.
Yeah. So we have lead, copper, aluminum, arsenic, cesium. This is a newer. This is Lily, 1.4. So this isn't a good one to go off of. But there were so many. Toxins. This is just her though. Uranium. I mean, these are all low, but on the original high one, which is Declan's.
And this is all the stuff that was in their blood?
Oh, this is Declan's. Why is it saying it? Oh, I'm just seeing things backwards for a second. Sometimes I see things backwards. So yeah. This is what you get at the doctor's. You get a regular...
By the way, those aren't monsters you're hearing. It's her kid playing, so don't be confused.
Yeah, and they're having fun. This is what the doctor gave us when we did the lead abatement program, because they did that to us too. And Richard Baird said that he was a part of that. He goes, how else do you think you got pipes in your house? So why is it that we are the only house that has new pipes and one person got treatment? Then we also had a water filtration system donated by a company that saw this picture in the news of my son. He never had a bath except for in bottled water until he was like over a year. And the first time he got to take a bath was, or no, he wasn't a year. He was 9 months old. And then they came over and actually filmed it because it was such a glorious moment, because they literally got everything out of the water with the filtration system. But anyway, so the doctors, everyone in the whole entire city, there was a few tests that they had to let through, or else it definitely would look like a cover-up, right? Because some people, like, that had a 46.7 or 29 something, they've been on the news. Obviously, a few slipped through, but they'd make us wait longer, and then it would go from your blood to your bones and organs and hide. So a DMSA test is what tests what's in your bones and organs. And so my son only had a 3 according to the doctor's blood tests. And then to DMSA, his first DMSA test, he had a 28.8 at the top. Is the first line is lead.
And what does DMSA stand for?
That's a big one for me.
But this was the blood lead test.
They've only ever called it DMSA to me. And I never asked what the abbreviation stood for, but
the numbers you're talking about are the lead levels in their blood.
Yeah, so what they had to do was, you can take a test with and without DMSA, and we did that just to compare. So here's one without, and this is me. And then here's one with DMSA, and it pulls out what's hiding in your bones and organs. So here I have a 0.4 of lead, and here I have a 7.4.
Wow.
So that's what's hiding.
And the important thing is lead, once it's in your system, basically, 30 days before a huge chunk of it is in your bones, and it's not going to be detected on blood tests. So a lot of people who tested after that, after the 30 days, they probably had a lot more lead that was actually than was showing up on blood tests.
Yeah, the health department kept giving us the runaround. So, like East Palestine, like get your blood tested and do all the tests now. Don't wait for the health department to do it. But what was I gonna say? I got lost.
It's okay.
What did you say again?
I got lost too. But you were talking about the difference between with and without the DMSA.
So let's go back to that because this is really important. So DMSA, it's safe. I'm sorry, I don't know what the abbreviation stands for. It's hard to hold on to words. I got my speech back, but my words aren't back. So he went from a 28.8 to 11.7 pretty quickly in the beginning. Dropped more than 10 numbers.
And this was when he was doing chelation?
Declan.
Mm-hmm.
And then my 7-year-old son that was this newborn here. And he started it at 4? Yeah, he was about 4. And now he's down to a 4.6 right here. And he keeps going down, but he is the highest out of all of us. So I'm down to a 3.8. Lily is no longer doing chelation. I don't know if a 3.8 is accurate because that was a year ago. So I'm done with chelation right now as well because I had some other health issues that just sprang out of nowhere from coming off of all of the medications. So all the pain I had from my head to my toes is gone. I still have some residual pain in my legs from what just happened to my thyroid. My legs swelled up really bad, so my knees have been bothering me a lot. But besides my knees, it's really not that bad. And I might stiffen up a little bit here and there in the morning, but that's about it. And my memory's coming back.
And what's the, quote, normal levels that they say for lead in the blood?
So anything like under a 1 and a 2 or even a 3, the doctor said that as long as it's like going down from that and leaving your bones and organs, that you could get stuff like that from nature, from like a bad batch of potatoes that were grown in the wrong soil. But if it's anything higher than, like, if it stays consistent, low dose long-term lead exposure is actually worse than high dose exposure over a year and a half. So we were exposed to all these toxins for a year and a half, and but we felt maybe like 14 months, and everybody else was 18 months. But some people found out right before.
Well, honestly, who knows? Because in recent years, the lead levels have gone up here too.
Right.
Which the national media barely reported, but lead levels were going up. I think it was last year.
Yeah.
In Flint. And from what we've shown, they've been manipulating the water testing for years, and we broke that they were falsifying the water testing. So the truth is, who knows what the real levels of lead are in this city for homes that they haven't changed all the pipes yet. So
I've ever looked into a name Robert Scott.
Robert Scott?
Yeah.
He was with one of the engineering firms, I think.
Oh, well, there's a woman I know that this happened to her, but it was a different situation. They wanted to test Ritalin on lead-tainted people, and so her husband was the painter of a apartment complex, and everyone got lead poison from the paint that he painted everywhere, and he died. All her kids are highly poisoned, and she has all kinds of problems too. Her one daughter they call her heart patient. That's her nickname. And so she said he still manipulates the numbers to this day. And she's been trying to get her paperwork out there nationally. She wants to give it to me because she doesn't know how much longer she might make it or not. But they won't pay for the chelation. Holistic doctors are not covered under insurance. but some of them try to take some of your insurance for blood tests and stuff like that, but they can't take it for the actual treatment because the government will not approve it, even though this has been around since the 60s when they had the paint problem and all that. And so people have been using chelation for decades, over 50 years, 70 years now, and so they're going to say that it's not safe. And Dr. Mona has been told about it, and she just fluffs it off and says everyone has autism. My son had autism like symptoms, and he's getting better. The symptoms are going away. But and then but she just insists that they all have autism or some form of mental problems now, and they're never going to be fixed. I saw that on a commercial. Oh, well, you're never going to be able to get out of this, but we can work together and, get these kids on the right track the best we can. No, you can get them on the right track. My daughter, Lily, is pretty much heavy metal free besides a little bit left. She has a 1.12 or 1.4, and that's all the chelation.
Well, also, how long was your treatment, Declan's treatment, and Lily's treatment? How long were they doing the chelation?
So mine was about 3 years. Lily's was about 1.5 to 2 years, maybe 1 3/4, and Declan is still going, so he's a little over 2 years. Mm-hmm. So it depends on every person.
Well, also something I think pretty scandalous, because, everybody, some people might want to try it, some people might not want to. But I remember you telling me, during the early years of the crisis, that the holistic doctors that do chelation had approached the state and told them that it would be relatively to offer it to all residents. It didn't strike me as like crazy expensive, and the state just didn't do anything.
So the first doctor that my ex saw on her own that we found without the government, Richard Baird, that meeting, before the meeting, we found a doctor that would accept Medicaid for some of the stuff, and that's unheard of. But we found one, and she said that, you want to hear something crazy? And we're like, sure, why not, and so she just felt trusting enough to tell us that her and a colleague of hers approached Flint mayor and the governor and said that they could do this for $150,000 for the entire city. And everybody would have been done in like 6 months or so because they would have got it right then and there, maybe 6 months to a year. But the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take because the deeper it gets.
And this was in 2017?
No. I think it was just like the year before that.
Okay.
But
so we're talking like early years of the crisis, maybe 2 years after the water switch. It's out, people know about it, and these people who do chelation said to the state, for $150,000 we could offer this to every resident.
And yeah, so the government's reply is that if you say this to anyone, we're gonna shut your offices down. And she wanted to retire, so, and she didn't want to like lose everything. Or she said, if I was younger, I'd fight because I was there in the 70s, man. And that's the kind of attitude she had. She was very, very nice, bubbly lady, and I think Flint residents would have loved her. But I'm hoping that she's safe and sound because, like I said, she was very threatened, and she was genuine. She didn't. Why would a doctor just come out and lie to me about this?
But the crazy thing about that, because people will say things like, there will be people who say it's not safe or whatever. But in the situation you were in, which is unprecedented, you're all poisoned with lead, and there was a lot more than lead. Wouldn't you want to leave it up to the residents to decide?
Yeah.
Some residents might not want to do it, but others might say, well, what's my alternative? To just get sicker and sicker? Let me try this. And if it was that...
For the kids, it wasn't as invasive, I'll tell you that, and it was cheaper because DMSA pill form chelation is a lot milder on the body, and you can do a foot bath afterwards, because so what it's going to do is pull it out from your bones and organs, and then you're going to want all of that that's collected, because eventually you're not going to like sweat it all out and pee it all out or urinate it all out right away, and it can kind of collect in places, make your feet hurt and stuff. And so we found out if we did the ionic foot bath right after the kids were done with their chelation for the weekend, that their brains functioned way better. Because the way I found out about the ionic foot bath, Declan was 2 years old and hadn't said a word, and then after he had a foot bath and the water was like dark brown, even though it was only half the time, he started talking. So this ionic foot bath is also available to the public, but you have to buy it on your own, and you don't need a prescription for it. But you don't want to have like blood pressure problems. You want to talk to your doctor before you do anything that I'm saying. I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you how I lived through being poisoned and contaminated, how my kids lived.
Well, I could just tell you, I'm not a doctor either, and I'm not endorsing or not endorsing because I don't know enough. But what I do know, your ex looked like he was on death's door before that treatment, and it definitely helped your ex. And I've seen you up close probably 3 years ago, and I thought you were having a heart attack one night when I saw you. You opened it. I had left my laptop here during an interview, so I came back. It was like 9 o'clock. You opened the door. Your face was beet red. You were having chest pains. I was like, "You want me to call an ambulance?" And you told me that this was normal for you.
Yeah, and I did end up having a minor stroke in the backyard after that. I was in the backyard, and my girls found me, and my face drooped, and the side I couldn't move, and they all dragged me into the house, and I thought I was having another RA attack, because I had already gone to the hospital once thinking I was having a stroke, and they were like, "No, it's the RA attack, rheumatoid arthritis attack," because it was all attacking my sternum and my ribs, so it was all clustered in my chest. And so I figured, oh, it's just that again. But like, my face was sagging, and I told my doctor that, and she's like, "Oh, you should have come in. You don't you ever stay home again." I actually slept it off and was okay. But I come from a long line of strokers, because I mean that must be the good thing, because I was able to be okay with the first one, no problem. I haven't had another one.
Yeah, the point I'm making is you look a lot better than you did years ago.
Like,
even
we're not
years
doctors,
ago,
but this is a treatment for heavy metals.
Years ago, you just looked like pale. Now,
Constantly called a drug addict. Like, I looked like if you would have put a blanket around me and smudged two things, I was gonna be in a corner somewhere in a abandoned building. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody, because I know there are people that live that's happened to and have come out of that. But that's what I looked like. I lost my reputation because of the way I looked. Like, I lost teeth. I got my front ones fixed, so you don't see all the black right now. I have to get the rest pulled out. I have to get dentures. I had no cavities for 16 years, and I have to get all my teeth pulled. All of them.
Which, by the way, dental is expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of putting it off and putting it off. I can't put it off anymore. So that'll be the next big thing, and hopefully last.
But it's just really incredible to me that, again, the state under Snyder was approached, and 150 grand, they fart that out in a second, the government. And again, I mean, maybe a lot of residents wouldn't have wanted to try it, but I'm sure a lot of residents would have. And if it could help 10%, 20%, more than that, why wouldn't you do that when a whole city, not to say you can't try other things, but in the little bit of research I've done, I mean, chelation has been used for heavy metal poisoning.
Yeah, it could have saved a lot of people that we lost already, and it could have stopped a lot of children from like having a really hard time in school. And there's still kids at school. The teachers are acting like they have Flint fatigue as well, like at these other schools that are neighboring to Flint, that take Flint kids, because they shut down all our schools. And the kids, it just chokes me up because it's needless death. It's murder when it's needless death. There's no reason to have all these deaths when there's a cure. There's a way to get it out. And no, there is some people that decline to have it because if you wait so many years and then do it, you're going to not feel so great during the treatment all the time, and you're going to have someone to be able to help you. But like I said, with the DMSA, it's a lot milder, so you could go that route instead. I had to do the IV route because, like you say, I looked like I was one banana peel away from the grave, and
And you're not old. Your health problem started in your late 30s, mid 30s.
yeah, I had Declan at 36, and so a year and a half, 2 years at 30, 36, 30,
Yeah.
38.
Yeah.
So the last 6 years, and I'm going on. So I had to have been 30. Oh, I don't know, somewhere around
30,
5, 6
yeah.
years. I've been really sick to death, and I would like to be out of my house. I haven't gotten quite like out of the house, but I'm driving again. I'm driving the truck. I love the truck, and it's my little piece of freedom for a minute, and that's about all I do so far. I gotta take baby steps because I still don't want to have a stroke or a heart attack if I push it too far.
Right. And let me ask, I know you're not much of a talker, but you, Jeff, were fortunate that you were not living in Flint during the water crisis, so you were spared that. But what does it say to you in this country, with the wealthiest country on earth, all this branding, shining city on a hill, and the envy of the world? It's almost 10 years later, just past 9. They don't have expanded health care. Everyone says the water is safe, even though I talk to people, they tell me the water smells like sewer, that they got shiny black particles in their water. Some people, people are still telling me and showing me that they're getting rashes, losing hair in the shower, their eyes burn still in the shower. No one's going to prison. What does that say from an outsider, because you didn't live here during it?
It's crazy that that can go, like in the United States. You don't think of anything could happen like that, but yeah, where I lived, when it was going on, you hear about it on the news for I don't know a little while, and then it just disappeared. Like, yeah, Flint's better, okay, but yeah, it's crazy that could happen here.
Yeah, he did. I remember you saying that you were surprised that I was so sick and that was still going on because you thought it was over.
Most people do, because they don't hear about it.
And like she said, we have a full house filtration system, and I still ain't drinking the water.
No. Yeah, and we even got the one under the sink too, and it's proven to work, but even I just can't.
Well, the truth is, honestly, this city, Flint, like so many other cities, has lost so much of its population. The water infrastructure and the pipes, they were built for a city when the population was over 200,000 people. Population now is, I think, less than 90,000.
74, we looked it up, or
81, it said.
81.
81,000. When they switched the water, it was closer to 100,000. So just think about that. And there's a lot of abandoned homes. So they haven't replaced all the pipes. They haven't touched people. You got lucky, but most people have not had their interior plumbing changed. So those pipes are corroded. The main pipes that run underneath the street, they haven't fixed those. They only were replacing the service lines, which go from the curb into the home. But you have water that's stagnant throughout the city because it's running through abandoned homes and sections of the city that don't have active water use. So between the stagnant water, it's still running through corroded pipes. Jesus can bless the new pipes. But if it's running through, if other pipes that have not been changed, you're going to have lead leaching out, bacteria, and you also, stagnant water is not good quality water.
Oh, yeah. I definitely, I wanted to tell East Palestine something, because I didn't really say it right yesterday. I was kind of broadsided by the question, is that this holistic care can work for any kind of toxins, not just heavy metals. There was also a lot of bacteria and PFAS and TTHMs and gosh, like A, B, C, D, E, F to Z. You know, there's just everything in this water, not just lead and copper. And
Well, we should remind people, put aside the contaminants in the water. The Flint River for a century was a dumping ground. General Motors was dumping its waste in there. All sorts of industry was dumping its waste. So it's not only the water switch, but river water is harder to treat anyway. Chemically, it's harder for a water plant to treat river water. It's more acidic than the water from the lake, which is where you were getting the water for years. So God knows what other chemicals were in the Flint River that were not being treated properly.
well, it tells you how asleep the population is because here I am. I came from Holly on 290 acres testing wells to make sure the water was okay for the campers and turning it into the city to test it. And then I come into my city house and I think, oh, city water, we're good now. You know, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We were so happy about no more orange hair. My hair was copper colored when I came here. And, because the iron in the water there. And so I knew, I just didn't click. It doesn't click that you have to look out for you. You can't expect anybody with any kind of authority to look out for you. You are your, I don't have a word for it, but you are your
Best
guardian.
advocate, yeah.
Yes, you have to look out for your family. Please don't wait for them to save you. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't wait them to save your kids. Don't wait for them to save your pets. Please do not wait.
And I think people need to, because we have a lot of people who have been watching us from East Palestine, because again, we're like the only media that's staying on it. And it's really, there's a lot of similarities, because I found out 2 or 3 weeks ago, the CDC, the federal CDC, is telling doctors in East Palestine not to test residents for vinyl chloride exposure. Vinyl chloride is the highly toxic chemical that was on the trains that they vented and burned. There is no such thing. They just blew up those trains. The CDC is telling the doctors not to test residents for vinyl chloride. They're claiming that it would already be out of the system by now. Anyway, some residents were able to get the test, and what do you know? Their levels for vinyl chloride were elevated. So how many other residents have high level of vinyl chloride? Well, which, sorry to say, it's almost a slam dunk for cancer, vinyl, particularly liver cancer. And I've contacted the CDC 4 times.
Get your kids in the holistic care immediately. Look into ionic foot baths. Look me up on Facebook. I don't want any more people to die because of this stuff that they're doing to it's not just Flint, it's not just Jackson, it's not just Detroit, it's not just Washington. It's everywhere, and you gotta look out for you. You got to, and you gotta get the test done. I'm crying now because I remember that mom saying how her kid's nose were bleeding out of nowhere and he was coughing up blood. If that happened to my son, I would be terrified. And you guys are so brave and so strong for trying to stand up and do your best, but you gotta dig deeper. You're gonna have to dig deeper, and you're gonna have to get some tests. Look out of the box, start typing on your, just call out of the state. Don't talk to the in-county people, because if I go out of this county, I get treated better than I do when I'm in this county. Like, if I go to doctors in this county, they're like, if you bring up the water at all, and I got so used to my 2 doctors for a while, that were being so good to me that I forgot what it's like to go to a new doctor that doesn't believe in the water crisis and treats you like you're an idiot. So my endocrinologist was like, yeah, right, and I'm like, what do you mean, yeah, right? I'm like, okay, you're messing with us, so I'm bringing the paperwork next time, and So you got to look out for you, and please look out for your elders and your children and you, because you have to hold up your elders and your children. Look into holistic care. This test was a urine analysis, and they pull out the blood from the urine because you have microscopic pieces of blood in your urine, and they somehow test that. And so this is a urine analysis, and it's only $100. I mean, I know that's a lot, but to know what's going on with your body so you can give that to a doctor is priceless. So that way you know which way to go with, and then look up any kind of way to get toxins out of your body, period. Dandelion tea, uh, kids could have fun, picking dandelions that weren't sprayed. Well, you guys, you're in a different situation because you had it in the air, so it's like everything is, man, it's like they're looking for different ways. This is the best way to poison us. That's what it feels like.
Let me ask you about that, because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I've covered this shit, not just in Flint, elsewhere. At a certain point, you have to think whether the government and corporate America is intentionally trying to poison you, or they're just looking the other way, knowing that they're poisoning you. It sure does. Do you think they're intentionally trying to get rid of people? I mean, it doesn't make sense why, if this happened in Ann Arbor, I do not think it would be going on 9 years later.
Well, I was going to bring that up earlier. Is the governor before Snyder? Do you remember her name?
Granholm.
Granholm had Lansing done in a year or two. Lansing's had lead pipes, and it was done in a year or two for like under $80 million. So we were given $80 million. Why aren't our pipes changed? So right there says a lot. We were given more than that. We were given two balances. We were given some from federal and some from state.
Got $97 million as part of a lawsuit. So that was the government being forced to do something. That was the Melissa Mays lawsuit in 2017. A resident, along with other plaintiffs, sued Snyder and the state, and they were awarded $97 million to go towards service line replacement. Obama, when he was president, Flint got $170 million that was supposed to go towards the water crisis. And when Snyder was governor, the state government earmarked $370 million to go towards Flint. And good reporting showed very little of that money went towards Flint. So much of that money, we're talking $300 million or more than that, it's going to nonprofits and real estate developers and law firms and banks and the state government being rerouted to the state government. So all in all, it sounds like a lot of money went to Flint, but when you ask residents or when you just drive around, it doesn't seem like a lot of it went to Flint.
Oh, I unfortunately did get new plumbing, and the rest of this, some people got it, and my ex got the treatment, but other than that, no, I haven't heard of anybody getting any help. And so where's the money? So that right there should tell you something. Like a detective would be like, where's the money? Where's the money for these people? They're supposed to be getting better and they're still dying, and you took their money. So that would be on purpose.
Unfortunately, our camera battery is about to die. Last thing, real quick. You think Flint's ever getting justice?
I don't know. I mean, as long as we keep at it and we find more people, like-minded people that are tough and won't take no for an answer, I think we could see justice from more places, not just Flint, like, one fell swoop to the Supreme Court. But I don't know. We only have a year left for manslaughter, so why? I mean, I don't know if anybody's even pursuing that. I kind of had to stop looking for my health because I had to stop being stressed out. But I think, it's up to us right now, alone, the residents alone, and these little programs that they're nickeling and diming with all of our money that was supposed to be to make us right. They could have had every family member and dog chelated and their pipes replaced for under the amount that they got and did some of the stuff that they wanted to do. But instead they're greedy and taking money away. So I don't know. I mean, when are we going to get someone that actually doesn't lie?